I want to thank everybody for coming. I know there's some concern about the debt limit, and we'll have a chance to talk about that after. But I'm here to talk about some good news. Vermont is a leader in the country on captive insurance companies. We've got 900 captive insurance businesses here in Vermont. We've got about 1,400 jobs that are directly attributable to it. And this is an example of Republicans and Democrats, the regulatory community, legislature, and the governor working together. The history of the Vermont captives is that Governor Richard Snelling in 1981 believed that if Vermont got out front on creating this new opportunity for captive insurance, that Vermont could be a leader. And captive insurance essentially are companies that retain their own risk. They have to set aside money, they've got to do things that are prudent and responsible in order to be able to pay a risk, but they're able to manage it and to save money, and it has become to the benefit of Vermont, 1,400 jobs, that they've done so. I was in the state senate in 1981 and served on the finance committee. Arthur Gibb was the chair of that committee, a Republican from Madison County, and I worked with him in a bipartisan way to implement the vision of Governor Snelling. So the history since then has been terrific. And today, we just heard that the Heartland Group, which assesses the performance of the regulatory agencies in all 50 states, and how well they do for consumers, how well they do for insurance companies, rated Vermont banking and insurance #1. So a little bit of bragging is appropriate here. I want to thank everybody. But the reason that's so important is that one of the reasons we've got 900 captive insurance companies is that we've given good service to those companies. We have required that they have the proper capital reserves, that they do all the things insurance companies have to do. But when they've had a practical problem, we've had regulators that are there to try to come up with a practical solution. And that's the way it ought to be done. We've got a new opportunity, and I'm introducing legislation in Congress with John Campbell, who is not the state Senate president, but is a member of Congress from California, Republican. We're introducing bipartisan legislation called the Risk Retention Modernization Act. And essentially what this would do is help businesses throughout the country better manage their risk and lower their insurance costs and increase coverage availability by making some adjustments in the law that will make it easier for them to do their business. And essentially what we'll be allowing is for this risk retention to be used in commercial lines as well as the liability lines of insurance that are now available to it. So this is something that will be good in general for business in the country, but it will be very specifically beneficial to Vermont since we've got the infrastructure in place to take advantage of market opportunities. We've demonstrated in this state the ability to be on the forefront and to consistently be responsible both to the insurers and to the folks who are needing insurance, and we want to maintain that tradition, maintain our position on the front edge. So I'm delighted that I'll be co-sponsoring with my colleague, Mr. Campbell from California, legislation that will keep us on the forefront. And today we've got some folks who've been really responsible for creating these opportunities in Vermont. I just want to introduce people who are here, and then we're going to have a few folks speak. Richard Smith, who's the president of the Vermont Captive Insurance Association. David Provost. There you are. Okay, well, congratulations to you, Deputy Commissioner of Vermont Banking, Insurance, and Securities and Healthcare Administration. But it's wonderful you've got that recognition, and that's a tribute to the tradition and culture in the insurance division. So we're proud of that. Diane Salter, of Mountain Lake Retention Group, VC, member of the chair. How are you? And all the way in from Philadelphia, but she's okay. All right. John Prescott, partner at Johnson & Lambert. Yep, thank you, John. And Brian Braley, Housing Authority.
He's not here today.
All right, so he's on his way. It's Christine Hart, Executive Director of the Brattleboro Housing Authority, is on her way. And again, that's an example of just two down-home local groups groups that are doing good work. It needs to be done. They need insurance. This is a more affordable way for them to get it. Bill Riley's a partner at Paul Frank and Collins, expert attorney in this whole area. Patty Henderson, director of strategic risk, and you came from Burlington. All right. And then Sierra Gadboy and Marielle Moriarty, and you came from
Chicago.
Chicago. All right, and they call it the Sears Tower. So I want to thank you. Did I miss anybody?
I'm just I'm a gate crasher. I'm one of the 1,500 jobs.
Well, that's real. That's why we're here. Thank you, gate crasher. Any guy with a job can crash any gate right now, anytime. I appreciate that.
Jim Murray, my name is.
Thank you, Jim. So, this, as I mentioned, very simply is going to allow insurance companies to create these pools or groups for commercial property insurance companies. It's a small change in a way, but it's been a major policy debate. Generally, this legislation, enabling legislation, is applied to liability. When they do something wrong or somebody gets injured because they trip and fell or some liability issue like that. So I'd like to, at this point, to turn it over to the experts. We've got three folks who are going to speak. We're going to start with Mr. Smith, and followed by Diane Salter, and then finally John Prescott. Richard, come on up. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Rich Smith. I'm the president of the Vermont Captive Insurance Association. BCIA is the largest captive association in the world with over 450 members worldwide, and you're seeing folks coming from both near and far, and that's the power of this industry in Vermont, from my perspective. I want to thank Congressman Welch. He has been a supporter, as he mentioned, from the very get-go, and continues to be a supporter of the captive insurance industry here in Vermont. And it's important to have people like Congressman Welch on our side down in Washington. As the Congressman mentioned, this modernization, Risk Retention Modernization Act, really what it does is it updates an act that helped provide organizations such as colleges, hospitals, housing authorities, the ability to access sometimes hard-to-get insurance at reasonable rates. And it's been an incredible, you're going to hear more about that, but an incredible opportunity for these institutions. And as Congressman mentioned, he was there from the beginning. I actually hear a lot from folks saying, oh, I was there from the beginning. I was there from the beginning. Captives is such an important industry. But I actually have a photo on my wall. I think I did send it to you, Congressman, but of Governor Snelling signing the bill back in 1981. And there a slightly younger Peter Welch standing right behind him. And it was, he's been there from the beginning. And we appreciate his efforts to work on a bipartisan effort to get both the original captive bill off the ground and working on this particular bill as well. Those skills in Washington are widely recognized, and I think obviously we're going to come in handy over the next few weeks as we deal with more important issues. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you, Richard. Thank you. And now Diane Salter, Mountain Laurel Risk Retention Group. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
I'm going to talk just a little bit about a real-life example of how the Risk Retention Act benefited an industry, and ours is the healthcare industry in Philadelphia. In 2002, when we set up our Risk Retention Group, there was no insurance available to cover medical malpractice insurance, especially for hospitals and our employed physicians. So we came to Vermont, and with the regulation and the authority that's here, we were able to put together a risk retention group that has been extremely successful in helping us insure our risk. We cover about 1,800 physicians, have about 19,000 employees, a $3 billion operation. And to give you some feel for how it's helped, it's made us accountable and responsible to manage the risk, as well as to hopefully improve patient safety and quality, which is what everybody wants to see in their healthcare environment. One of the ways that we measure that success is we look at adjusted discharges and compare that to insurance expense. When we started in 2002, our insurance expense was about $666 per adjusted discharge. It currently is about $245 per adjusted discharge. That goes to our operations, that reduction. And that's really what we're talking about, is allowing businesses, whether it be not-for-profits or for-profits, the ability to manage their risk in a safe environment and to be responsible in the way that they manage that risk. Being able to look at this modernization act for the Risk Retention Group, I think is really key, because we need to make sure that the Risk Retention Act continues to help all of the businesses grow and do what they need to do from their insurance perspective. So thank you very much. I appreciate all your help with that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. And John? Yes. Prescott.
Yes, thank you. I'm here today to represent the local captive community and just talk a little bit about the importance of the captive industry to the state of Vermont, and I guess particularly to the service industry that's here in the state. We are very fortunate in this state to have a very, very talented group of people here that supports the state, supports the industry on a daily basis. We have our attorneys and captive managers and bankers and actuaries, and these folks work very hard throughout the year to make sure that Vermont maintains its status as the gold standard captive insurance domicile. So I'm here to represent one of the 1,400 jobs. I work with Johnson Lambert & Company, LLP. We're an accounting firm, and we just celebrated our 25th silver anniversary on the waterfront in Burlington a few weeks ago. My firm was started in the Washington, D.C. area in 1986 by two individuals, Larry Johnson and Debbie Lambert. And Larry and Debbie came to Vermont when the captive legislation was just a few years old, and our firm was very, very new, and so we were looking to align ourselves with small insurance companies, and the captive market made a lot of sense. Larry came in December 1986, and they made a series of visits, and he decided it was very, very cold in Vermont, and that he would likely never be back here again. If Debbie Lambert wanted to pursue the opportunity, she was free to do so, and that's what she did. She had a lot of vision in setting up an office here in Vermont. So we started out as a little two-person office. We now have 30 people in our office in downtown Burlington. Johnson Lambert has grown to become the 5th largest provider of services to the property casualty market in the U.S., and so we compete against the biggest firms in the U.S. Our little Vermont office of 30 people actually is the largest among our 8 offices, has the largest insurance revenue base. And so this industry has just been a terrific one to be associated with. We feel very lucky and fortunate. On a personal note, I've been with the company 20 years, and it's obviously provided me an opportunity to stay in Vermont. About 3/4 of the staff that we have are from the state of Vermont, and that's one of the best things about my job, is to give opportunities to young folks that would like to stay in the state. So we have a wonderful partnership here with our regulators, our service providers, our legislature, and I want to thank you, Congressman Welch.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your good work. And I think we have Brian Braley, who just joined us, and Christine Hart. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Any questions?
Captive insurance, it sounds like one of those offshore industries, and wondering if that, I mean, where's the competition?
Well, Bermuda, I think, is one of the places that's competing, but, you know, Vermont's better than Bermuda, as everyone knows. But there is competition. That's the whole point, that we've got to make the laws fit what needs to be done in a practical way. And there's always two things in insurance that need to be done. One, you've got to have adequate reserves to make sure you can cover loss and good loss management. And number two, you've got to have a regulatory flexibility so you can keep up with changes in the marketplace. And Vermont has managed to stay ahead. This federal legislation, when we pass it, which I hope we will, is going to give us a boost to be able to expand it a bit.
Does it seem like it'll be feasible to pass?
But, you know, when you ask me that, here's my answer. It should pass, but it's a weird world we're in now. Who knows? But this is about, there's so many opportunities that are within our grasp if we work together and concentrate on getting things done. So this is good for business, it's good for jobs, it lowers costs. I mean, this is an amazing story about how much your insurance costs went down so that money can go into operations. So Congressman Campbell is a very respected Republican leader in the House. I'm not sure what people would say about me, but we're teaming up. And we got a bipartisan effort here, and I think we can pass it.
I think I read somewhere that other states are trying to set up their own laws to accommodate captive insurance. In other words, compete with Vermont.
That's right.
Is that true?
That is true, and that's why this regulatory environment we have here is so important, because what we want to do is compete on service and quality, as opposed to a race to the bottom. I mean, that's a cyclical problem in the insurance industry. But Vermont, it was such great news as I was driving up this morning and heard the story about how we came in #1. Our regulatory agency came in #1 for the job that it's doing. So that's a big boost. Because what I'm hearing, and these folks can confirm it, but companies have questions and they have problems, and they've got to get answers. And if they get a quick turnaround with a prompt and clear answer, then that's the service they want. And they're willing to work if we're willing to work with them. Any other questions on captives? All right, but these folks will be here if you have any, if you want to do any follow-up with any of the ones who are here. So we can bring this part to a close, and then we can talk about this question, the debate in Washington, whether you have to pay your bills or not. Yeah, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
in. Yeah, you got a nice day.